standpoint. Because if you look around at this economy, nothing seems to line up. People are drowning in debt, savings are practically gone.
I barely made it through. My car. I was just driving, down the street. I go get some gas. I pull out. I'm not even on the street yet. Okay, I'm waiting my turn. I'm the farthest to the right. Okay, I'm waiting my turn, and a car just bumps. Just literally front fenders me, and yeah, my car's totaled by insurance. Still drivable, so yeah, all the cars are crap, and I didn't want a payment, so I was like, give me the 3 grand. I'll fix it, and yeah.
And the job market is on the brink of collapse. Inflation is supposedly down on paper, yet everything costs more than ever. But the stock market just keeps ticking higher and higher and higher.
I'm lucky enough to be part of that. I took a bite when everything took a shit in May or March when this whole thing started, and all the companies and all the markets started losing their minds. Yeah, I bought into some broad indexes and, of course, some NVIDIA and stuff like that. So, um,
Breaking record highs seemingly month after month. So a lot of people are asking the same question, why hasn't the stock market crashed yet? And a lot of you know that I am not an expert in this category. However,
my opinion on this is strictly my opinion, is that just the dollar is just complete shit. Its whole purpose is for inflationary. That's its end game is just to keep ticking up. Okay, so with that being said, all of the underlying value assets, your bonds, your real estate, things like that, they're not growing in value. The dollar is just losing more of its value. That's my take.
I want to make that clear that I am not an expert with this, but as somebody who has started investing in the stock market, I like to make sure I know what I'm investing in and how things work. The same thing was true whenever I first bought gold and silver. The same was
Mm-hmm.
true whenever I first bought Bitcoin. I want to understand the things that I'm buying and the market forces that move them or don't move them, and why the price is what it is right now. So, as long as you go into this video knowing that, first of all, I'm not an expert in this, this is
Same.
not my expertise in any way, but I'm an interested party because I have some skin in the game, as well as the fact that under current circumstances and the way things are operating, maybe it's possible that the stock market will never crash again.
It
Now,
won't.
if you look at today's
Not
stock market
seriously.
and the prices of everything, and you sit there and say, this makes no sense,
It's not going to crash. Not anytime. We're not going to see anything like the 1929s or the 2000s. No.
well, you're definitely not alone. A lot of people feel the same way. We have a huge amount of layoffs right now, which is actually good for the stock market. We have slow earnings growth with a lot of these companies, and we have valuations on.
Why is the layoffs good? Because they get us off the payroll and they have more access to easy cash flow. And then on top of that, they are not paying the taxes on that salary, which is also the bigger thing they are trying to avoid, the taxes.
Everything that would be considered totally insane just 10 years ago. But now it just seems to be normal. People are complacent about it. In fact, by historical
Oh, eggs are only $10 today? Okay, better than 15, I guess.
standards, this stock market is completely broken. And if you were to wake people from the dead from 30 or 40 or 50 years ago and they would look at what's going on today, they would say this is outright pandemonium and chaos, what's happening. But are the indicators broken or is something else going on? That's what we have to look at. Well, one of the best things that we can take a look at is the most successful stock investor of all time, which is Warren Buffett. Why isn't he buying right now? Why is he sitting on a record?
Because he's all of his cash, exactly. He is known as the dancing grave maker, something to that effect. But he has all of his cash. He cashed out at what he thought was the top, and when it crashes, he's gonna then go in and just clean house and get some amazing deals.
Amount of cash and not buying anything. Well, the main reason is because Warren Buffett looks very closely at something called market cap to GDP ratio. And what this is it's basically where you take the value of all the publicly traded US companies and divide it by US GDP. And historically, that number would come in around 70 to 80%, which would mean that the market is undervalued, kind of like how you overvalue or undervalue a particular housing market.
Mm-hmm.
And if it comes in at 100%, it's expensive. And anything over 100% is the danger zone. And we have been in the danger zone for quite some time when you look at the current market cap versus GDP
Danger zone.
ratio. Okay, right now, total market cap is around 66 trillion and total US GDP is roughly 30 trillion, which puts us at a 220% market cap to GDP ratio. So we have blown completely through the expensive category into just numbers that make no sense anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why you kind of scratch your head and look at this like, how is this possible? How can this continue going? And once we go through everything that's happening, it might become more obvious that this might be able to continue going as long as the government and the Fed are able to keep the whole magic show on the road.
They love to keep the music going because we can't stop dancing. Because when we stop dancing, then the show stops.
But to put this into perspective, before the dot-com crash back in 2000, that market cap to GDP ratio was at 115%. And we had a stock market crash back then. Now we're at 220%. No one blinks an eye.
I mean, we also had a huge terrorist event too that shook our financial center to the core. I mean, let's not take that, you know.
In fact, people continue to keep investing. I'm one of them. I put money in on a regular basis, but it's not a large chunk of my savings or investing. But I figured I just want to be as diversified as possible with different things that I own, so I contribute some. But here's where the problem lies: the valuations just don't work like they used to. In fact, a lot of people in the industry right now will say that valuations just don't matter anymore. And we can see this by looking at the S&P 500. Historically, the profits and
Have been 500 companies, and now it's down to 7 or 10 companies that make up the broad index or the market cap, yeah, of the S&P 500 as well as the Dow. Yeah.
those ratios for the S&P 500 was around 15 to 16. Today, that number has ballooned to around 25 to 28. So you can see it has gone up exponentially just in the span of about 20 years, which is kind of crazy and unheard of. You got Nvidia trading at PE ratios in the 50s right now, Amazon in the mid 30s, Microsoft pushing 40, Tesla close to 300. This means that investors are paying anywhere from tens to even hundreds of dollars for just $1 of earnings that any given company has. And why is everyone doing this? Well, everybody says this time is different. So why hasn't the market crashed with such exuberant behavior? Because I think a lot of people who thought it was going to crash thought it would have already happened by now, myself included. Well, it's a confluence.
It's always crashing. The people are showing it how the prices are not being able to be sustained. How many people, I mean, I sometimes wonder what's the point.
Of different things. Like, first of all, the market doesn't crash anymore just because things look bad. That's how it used to work back in the day. But now we live in the make believe world that everybody has to try to wrap their head around. And you have some major forces that are continuing to prop up the market, most notably government spending, okay? And the amount of stimulus that they pump into the economy on a regular basis. The Fed has been cutting interest rates since September of 2024 and looks to be continuously cutting interest rates, possibly into 2026. And they may have even just started up QE again. It looks like
Mm-hmm.
they did.
They
Because
did.
of our massive deficit
Quantitative
spending in this country, that
quantitative easing. Basically, you got to start the money printer.
that extra spending flows into corporations, it goes to contractors, it goes to employees, and then it shows up in consumer spending later down the road. That spending props up earnings, and earnings prop up stocks, and it's basically stimulus in disguise. And then, of course, another big one is inflation, okay, and the devaluation of the dollar. Everybody is looking for a place to put their money, so it doesn't get completely eroded by inflation. That's another major reason why the valuations of these companies and the stock prices just continue going up. Everybody, it kind of has the same set of options for the most part. You can invest in gold and silver, you can invest in real estate, you can invest in the stock market, you can invest in Bitcoin, or you can invest in businesses. Those are some of the big ones where people look to put their money. There's not a whole lot of other great options out there as a hedge against inflation, or at least a way to keep up with it.
No.
And so, guess what? Everyone's doing it. And the stock market is one of the easiest things that people can do, especially since so many people have 401ks and retirement accounts that are connected directly to their job. And as inflation continues to inflate asset prices, it makes the earnings look better than they really are. And
Facts.
because everyone's purchasing power is going down right now, and companies are continuously raising prices, the earnings for these companies rise without real growth. So once again, it makes the numbers look better than they really are artificially. So this is how companies essentially report record profits even when consumers are struggling, and it's not real growth. It's inflation pretending to be growth, and Wall Street knows this, but they don't care. It still makes them richer. Inflation always has and always will benefit the people who hold the most assets, especially if you are leveraged and using debt. Because if you borrow money to buy assets when inflation is rising, your debt gets cheaper in real terms, adjusted for inflation.
Yeah, he's using a script for sure, but it's all truth. I mean, everyone who just bought stuff, for Christmas, more than half of the people who bought on Black Friday bought with new debt, money they didn't have, right? And 25% of people are still paying off their Christmas debt or whatever from last year. So yeah, I'm no better, you know. Um, I got debts and things that I got to pay down, and I'm still figuring out how to make it work. So uh, all we can do is just keep finding a way. That's all we can do. Because if not, what's the point? What's the point? Why even continue to talk about it, to fill out another application? Because if that's not a miracle to be here and take advantage of every day and do as much as we can, I don't know. I'm not saying do what you can't do, but not sure where I wanted to go with this, but I wish I had more confidence in the situation that I face myself in and the amount of time I have left to figure something out, because I'm not sure what's gonna be next or what I'm gonna do, because I thought I had a plan, just like everybody else. I did the work, I put in the time, I did the steps, that I thought was gonna lead me to where I needed to be, and yeah, it got me only so far, and that's thankfully only to the people who I know and who I care for and who are close to me, but it's just difficult for someone who doesn't own their own company or have their experience, in doing more stuff. I don't know. And I know this probably won't last forever. Nothing good or in general lasts forever, right? So just wanted to talk about it and see if it makes any sense. Because sometimes they say if you talk to yourself, that's when stuff makes the best sense. Because only you know you, and yeah, I'm probably just rambling at this point, but I hope you guys dug the talk. If you guys enjoyed it or want to hear more, click the like button. If you think it was good enough, please consider giving me a subscribe. And catch you guys on the next one. Peace.